What's up, y'all? 4050 back at it again. Hey, y'all. Hey, fellas. Sometimes you ever get lonely. You ever get lonely? You ever get lonely, fellas? I know we don't like to talk about that. Sometimes people get uncomfortable when black men talk about they get lonely, but you get lonely after your 40s and moving into your 50s as life changes. We're going to talk about that. I want to talk about one moment in my life when I was like in my 40s. I found myself just changing. My interests started changing. Things that really were compelling to me, things that I used to do, I no longer wanted to do. And with that, my friendships changed, my circles changed, and that
Yeah.
caused me to change. And it was difficult. And I just thought it would, we just thought it would be a great topic to talk about today. What happens when a man's social network starts to change because he's changing? And I think men
Mhm.
reach a point of feeling lonely. So let's just talk about what that means for us today here on 4050. You don't want to miss this one. It's going to be good. All right, y'all, back at it again. What's up, Quez? What's up with you, man?
Man,
What's
how
up
you
with you,
feeling, my
man?
brother?
Welcome back. Quez
We
is
Good to
back
missed
be
you.
in
It's
the
good
back.
to
We
miss
missed
you.
y'all
building.
too.
What's happening, man?
Yeah,
It's so good to see you, bro. So
man,
good to
good to
see
see
you.
y'all, man, and
We
good to
got a
be
little
here on
lonely.
this
We got a
topic, man.
little lonely, missed you.
Got a little, what'd you say? A little lonely.
A little lonely.
Y'all clowning.
Hilarious, yo,
Man,
hilarious,
oh
man.
man.
I really want to talk about the numbers because I'm the numbers guy. Here is really where we want to look at why we're even talking about this. Only 4 in 10 men say that they have friends and family nearby that they can rely on. That's huge. 1 in 7 men have 0 close friends, which is up dramatically over 30 years.
One in
Time
7.
spent with your friends have dropped 70% into the last 2 decades. Where are we spending our time, right? We didn't
Yeah.
lose our friends. We lost the infrastructure for our friendship. And we
Mm.
began to take some of these cliches and stigmas, we began to take them on. So I feel passionate about that. And take a moment, help me out here. Why in your 40s is it that breaking point?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I do think it's one of those things that we all experience. And where my mind first takes me actually is when Janine and I first got married and we looked at her
Yeah.
parents. We loved her parents. We were living there in Columbus, Ohio. Shortly after we got married, we moved back to Columbus, where she was from, to be close to her parents and have them involved in rearing our children. And one of the things that we noticed really early was that her parents, they loved each other beyond anything, but it was really just the two of them. They had a little bit of a
Mhm.
network outside of them, but it was really just the two of them. And at the time, she and I were much younger. We had just gotten married and we had all these other friendships in our lives. And we felt like, wow, we're not going to wind up like your parents. We're going to have these other really strong relationships outside of our marriage. And then you just look, man, like life just starts life. And then the next thing you know,
Yeah.
you wind up in the exact same situation. So it was one of those where I just think we didn't really understand it at the time. But life just has a way of sort of compressing your world, right? Then you have kids.
Mm,
Your kids become the center of all of your negotiable time. And we had two.
yeah.
One of them played like high level club volleyball, like the highest level of club volleyball that there was. And it wound up being one of those things that took up all of our time. It took up a lot of money, but it
Yes.
wound up being
My
the
gosh.
community that we invested the most in. Like, this is it, Sunshine Volleyball Club out here wound up being our life for the better part of like 5 or 6 years. And when you're
Yeah.
traveling, at least once every month, we were traveling somewhere to play together. That proximity that you spend with those people becomes your network. That becomes who you're all
Yeah.
about. And because family life, like, it gets so compressed and it forces you to put all that time and energy into something. When club volleyball stopped for us in 2023, in the spring of 2023, that was the last time that everybody on that team has been together in the same space. And so suddenly, like, that's one
Got
of those
you.
things that gets cut off. So when you think about men in particular, the way that we bond, we tend to bond kind of shoulder to shoulder through activities, through
Yeah.
conversation. And then after
Definitely.
Yeah.
40, our
Yeah.
kids, the activities shift, our careers plateau in like lots of different ways, marriages can end, you name it. And all of those other places that we used to use, it could be the barbershop, it could be the basketball court, wherever it was is used to fraternize, those wind
Yeah.
up being gone, or in a lot of cases, they wind up being gentrified. So again, when you think about it, like we used to have friends and we were all connected to structures. And when the structures leaves, those friendships just leave too.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Man, that's so good, man. I couldn't help but think about as we start to transition into our 40s, we really, as Black men, get in tune, we get in touch with our vulnerability. And I think oftentimes the way we're raised, being toxically masculine, paternalism, all those things, this tough guy syndrome starts
Yeah.
to play with us, right? It starts to
Mhm.
really become, you know, this thing that we have a hard time dealing with. And I think it really starts to hit me. It hit me when I got to my 40s, and I'm like, what's this other side of me that's like, it ain't always about being a tough guy, because once you deal with all the pressures of life and all that, that tough guy got to deal with himself in some way, shape, or form. And usually it's in the form of alcohol or something else. So when
Come
you
on.
start thinking about those things, that tough guy syndrome, you got to put that in check. And this is one B-roll we about to play right now, where this cat brings in some perspective with this whole tough guy syndrome, but mainly why it's important and why Black men have a hard time with friendships at this stage in their life. So check it out. I think you'd really appreciate it.
As Black men, we will say, we don't feel like we can be on our authentic selves because then we get attacked. So I can't show weakness because I don't want to be a mark. I can't show sadness because I'm supposed to be able to handle everything for everybody else. I can't show a level of anxiety and too much stress because then the people around me are going to get stressed out, and then what they going to do. But what's crazy for us is we can't even show good stuff. There are Black men in here that know I can't be too happy because this fool gonna think I'm goofy. Yeah. I can't show that I'm in love because then they gonna think I'm crazy and somebody gonna take me. I can't be overly excited because I gotta act like I've been there before. So when you're suppressing both negative feelings and positive feelings, we have actually said that to be a Black man, you gotta be stoic and humanless. And then we get mad when the world treats us inhumanely. And so this is not about us changing the narrative about who Black men are. Black men who know Black men know that Black men are not that. We have to give ourselves permission to be it.
So there's some things in here that I really appreciated what he said. And he says this one part about how we struggle with the two sides of being a man. The two sides, the soft side and the hard side, because at one point, you know, a woman may want you to get in tune with that soft side, but the man, your male friendships may look at you in a different way, like, why you being soft? Well, it's like, well, look, I'm in a marriage now. CJ talked about that. I got women in my life that are dependent on me, children, things like that. I gotta be in tune with my soft side. But sometimes if a male friend doesn't have that element in his life, he may not be in tune with it. So when you try to talk to him about it, he's like, what? What you talking about? That's soft. You know, so I think
Yeah.
as we start to transition in our life and our interests start to change, our relationships and our friendships do the same. And unfortunately, we end up losing interest in those friends
Yeah.
because we no longer have the same things in common. And I think that's something that
Yeah.
gets hard for us, especially when you got, you know, pressures at work, you got things at home, you working on providing. There's not a lot of room
Yeah.
left for the things that you once had room for before all these other things started to occupy your time. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I can recognize with the stat 1 in 4 Black men have reported feeling isolated,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden they're like, well, I got to spend my time with my family. I got to spend time at work. It's only so much time left for me. And that little bit of time that I have left, I want to use it for myself, right?
Yeah.
Because I got to
Yeah.
check in with me to make sure I can be who I need to be in all these other
Come
places.
on.
It
Come
gets to
on.
be a thing where you try to figure out, how do I balance all this stuff? And the things that I used to do with my friends are pulling away from those things that give me balance. So I just think those are things that all come into play with why we lose friends at this
Yeah.
age in our life, because life takes
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
different meaning.
Yeah. Well, I actually want to push you on something real quick though, Jay, because I can see that you were going to a space where you were talking about evolving to a point and starting to deal with your feelings and emotions in a much more mature way, but having that almost rejected by dudes in your life who are looking at that like, that's being soft or whatever. So I just want to invite you to share something about that just because I saw you having to go into that space.
Yeah, I think I'll never forget when I started recognizing there's power in vulnerability.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that was in my 40s. And that's when I think I started dreaming about 40, 50, because I started to recognize that there aren't a lot of places for Black men to congregate
Mm.
in
Mm.
vulnerability, because I started
Yeah.
to get in tune with it. And I'm like, dang, I can't talk to my crew like I once used to. At least I don't feel comfortable doing it. I may be able to poach some of them off and have these individual conversations, but in community, it's hard for Black men to get vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest. We got men's cliques there. We've been known each other for 30 years or so, and it ain't always easy
Yeah.
getting vulnerable after 30 years, right?
Mm.
I know,
So
right?
it's just like, okay, I want to create some spaces where I can do that. And I think that's where I started to recognize it started to boil up in me. And I started to realize, like, those friendships I once had, love them to death, but I can't go there with everybody like I want to go, like I am here with y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think those things just start to materialize, because I think if we ignore it, then we find other ways to feel it that aren't so
Mm.
healthy. So that's my take on.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah. How about you,
Yeah, yeah,
Quest? What
yeah.
what you thinking? What you got?
Well, I am just looking at the whole situation of us choosing, this and thinking around how, in some ways, it also is a personal choice, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it could be a personal choice. And I believe that there may be a lot of points for us to discuss, even around like that, like us choosing, to be, I guess, isolated is a word. I don't want to say it so much like that, but maybe there's a
No.
repurpose, right? Maybe there's a focus that needs to
I
happen or
love
something
that.
of that nature, right?
I love
So
that.
I'm gonna
Repurpose.
pass this back to Chris though, because I feel like when we were talking just a moment ago, Chris, this was something that you may have wanted to expound upon. So I want to give you a little bit of room to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is starting to look a little bit at why we choose to isolate ourselves. Like I think we're getting to a point
Yeah.
of understanding that that comes with a cost and it's loneliness and it's some things that we're going to wind up picking up on. But when you think about it, like I do feel that for a lot of us, for different reasons, it's something that we chose. But at the time, I don't think we fully understood exactly what it is that we were choosing. So, for instance, when I think about some of those
Yeah,
relationships drifting, I used to think to myself, like, I'm just focused, I'm building, I'm prioritizing my family, and all that
yeah,
is true. But then there
yeah,
winds up being a cost that's associated with that level of focus. And I'll also say this, like, I'll be honest, I'm one of those people when I'm with you, like, I'm really, really, really with you. I'm
yeah,
fully present, I'm there in a
yeah.
moment. But when we're not together, I'm fully present wherever else I am. So it can
Right.
feel that that relationship is starting to drift when it actually isn't that. It's just that we haven't put that time in. And so once we come together, we're going to be together. But I had to start to understand that even though my intention was never to make it seem like I was drifting from that person, the fact that that was happening sent a message that I wasn't intended to convey about the
Got you.
friendship and what
Mm,
that meant to me and what that person meant to me. So again, that's one of those lessons that I think I learned the hard way over some years and seeing some relationship drift because the person was assuming that I was less into that friendship than I actually was.
Jay, I think sometimes we choose isolation because people disappoint us.
absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I think is and there's so many different levels of disappointment that could happen. I think one level of disappointment that I could speak on myself is thinking that you could go there in your relationship with this friend that you've had for such a long time and recognizing that it has a ceiling. Like, we've reached our peak. I can only go here with you, right? But I want to go here, but I can't because you just ain't there. And that ain't no
Yeah,
knock on you. It's just I'm developing in other areas that aren't important to you. So it's like, that's cool. I'll hang out with you on this level. But when I need to go
yeah,
here, I may have to isolate myself. I may have to spend
Mm-hmm.
some time with myself to get more comfortable with where I see myself going and hope that I'm able to bring people, the universe can bring people into my life that will allow me to integrate at that level. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So I
Yeah,
feel
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's the part where I was really asking the universe and God to manifest, okay, bring people into my life that can fill this void of isolation because I don't want to be
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. So do you think cutting people off is protection or self-sabotage? What do both of you think about that?
I'll let you go first, TJ.
Man, that's a hard one. I mean, I think my first answer to it is I feel like when I do it, I'm doing it because I'm doing it out of a sense of protection. But again, it's one of those where after 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years, you look back and you're like, wow, it may have been self-sabotage. So obviously, I don't think it was self-sabotage in the moment, but I think
Right.
it was unintentionally self-sabotaging when I thought that it was a matter of protection. Like some of it, I think for me, once I got married, because I got married younger in my adulthood than a lot of my friends did. Had a kid earlier than a lot of my friends did in that same space. So like I was having life experiences that my friends just weren't. And so not being able to go hang out and do this and do that the way that some of them were, it was fine for me because it was like a sacrifice I was willing to make for my family and I didn't pass on it. It was fine. But I remember coming to that point of, ooh, what I see them doing, if I stay around that too much, that can wind up creating issues for me in my marriage or in my fatherhood. So I started to make a choice at that point to step away a little bit. That I consider to be protection. But
Yeah.
again, when you look over the course of time, because it was never about a judgment on the people and what they were doing, it was more just me understanding I didn't need to be in that space to make the decisions I needed to make. So I needed to step away from it. And you see where those relationships wound up as a result. Those cats who continued to hang out with each other as much as they did grew into very mature adults who have a much closer relationship than I do with them. And again, it's because I took myself out of that at the time, just because we were in different spaces. So when I think
Mm.
about those relationships, if you want to call it self-sabotage, maybe that wasn't a little bit of a way, but it wasn't something I understood at all at the time.
Got you.
Yeah.
Jay, what about you?
Man, I think anything that bears good fruit has to be pruned.
Mm,
And
mm.
I
so
like that.
I'm up here like, hey, if I'm trying to grow and there's some things that I got that are in my circle or in my soil that aren't helping me do that, I got to cut bait. And it's not
Mm.
always easy. Sometimes it just organically happens through self-sabotage because you're like, I ain't really feeling this relationship that much no way, so I'm not gonna spend that much time in it. I'm not gonna pour into it like I once used to. So you sabotage the relationship indirectly,
Yeah.
right? But I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
also there's some relationships that require you to be more direct about it because you're just not going in the same direction. And it can be completely antithetical to what you're trying to create in your household.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have some friendships and I'm like, I ain't trying to do that. I ain't trying to be in the
Yeah.
Right.
streets like that. So I
Right,
can't pour
right.
into
Yeah.
that relationship because it's gonna impact my household or impact the lifestyle and quality of life I want to have.
Do
Mm.
we know how to be
Mm.
friends anymore? It sounds like in some instances we don't even know how to be friends anymore. CJ, I would beg to ask you even this question to see what you think about that.
Wow. Yeah,
Mm,
and again, you're asking all the right questions. I do think it's one of those things it's a skill that you have to develop, you have to cultivate. And I think as you get older, the way you develop friendships when you were younger, it's just not going to work in the same way because life just isn't going to present you with the same kind of opportunities. Again, as men, we tend to develop friendships out of the spaces that we congregate in. As you get
Yeah.
older, you have family, you start doing these things, isolating a little bit. You're at work, but you don't want to hang out with your work friends all the time. You find yourself less in those like naturally social spaces that you would congregate in. So I don't know that I understand how to engage and be a friend with somebody for the first time. You know that you have to introduce yourself, you kind of get beyond some things, but you know that there's
Mhm.
a level of intimacy in that friendship you're not going to be able to develop for years. And there's part of
Yeah.
you that's like, man, do I really even have the bandwidth to invest in this enough to get it to that point,
yeah,
knowing that
yeah,
my
yeah.
energies are going in all these other directions? I say for me, where when you start asking the question, the other place it took me was thinking about two groups of folks, like my dudes from college, and I think about my guys from the South Side of Chicago growing up. We have talked for years about getting together. Like the last
Mm.
25, 30 years, my roommates, there are four of us, in college. We spent 3 years living together. One of them, we were together for 4 years. And every year to 2 years, we talk about doing some kind of get together. Pick a city. We all live in different places. Pick a city. The four of us are going to get there. We're going to spend a week just doing what we used to do from a much more mature angle. And it still hasn't happened. I think about my guys from the South Side, even my small crew of guys, Rick, Bernard, Richard, trying to get that group together. We talk about it all the time, and it just never happened. So, I had that health incident that came up in October and in November, and that really did light a fire into me like, oh my gosh, I need to make this happen. But we're talking
Yeah.
5, 6 months later, there are no plans in place. So it's like,
Yeah.
I know that there are friendships I need to have continued to cultivate on the level that I could have. Life just kind of gets in the way.
Yeah. When you were 25, it's effortless.
Ooh,
You probably are doing the same things. I know for me, I'll just give you an
It
example.
is, yeah.
When I was in Tampa and I was still working in some ways for the federal government, there was this guy that was down there that I had met, and we just kicked it off like right there. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm gonna tell you, we weren't too busy in understanding the whole reasons why we were clicking, right? It was just the simple fact that we were clicking. We felt, like a part of something. We start investing, our time into each other just from the things that we liked. But I never really got into having real deep conversations with the guy to where I really understood exactly who he was to the point where it really mattered. And I think at 45, at 46 now, you got to choose it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You
yeah.
gotta choose to want to know who your friends are. You gotta choose to want to understand if they are like you. You gotta choose to want to understand some of those intricacies that you
Yeah.
never thought. Like I was just thinking and saying to myself, like, I gotta want to know you the way that I wanted to know me. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't have that syndrome that says, I'm not about to call this grown man, just asking him, you want to go hang out? Like, what? I want to go hang out. I want
Yeah.
Yeah.
me, myself. I want
Yeah.
to go hang out. Maybe you want to go hang out. I
Mm,
should call you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we
Yeah.
just confuse being around people with having friends. We be in a work event or something like that, and we think that these people might be our friends, but they probably are not. They
yeah.
probably don't share those values. They probably don't have a moment to sit down and really think about even friends having love languages. And what does that look like
Mm,
from a
Come on.
male standpoint, a black male standpoint? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Proximity isn't friendship. That's just for
Yes.
real.
That's
Proximity
so
is not
good.
friendship. You got to really dig deep into the values, into those things that your friend is going to stand business on. So if you hear something else from somebody else, you're like, that's not the friend I know, right?
Right.
Being able to be in something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Well, I
I
will
love
Yeah.
I
say
love
though,
it. That's go ahead.
well, I was just going
Go
to
ahead.
add to that quickly because you're talking about the proximity piece of it. Proximity does not equate to friendship, but proximity is important to making sure that friendship exists, like
Yeah.
and
Okay.
really
Yep.
investing in that. Because I would even say, when I think proximity, we always think that's about physically being in the same space together. But even that's what we're doing virtually. This is being in proximity with one another. And I will
That's
Yes.
say,
right.
I
Yes.
got a
Yes.
real lesson in this back when COVID happened. And everybody was like forced isolation. You were quarantined. It was just you and your small group. It was your family, a couple friends, whoever it was you were living with. Like that was your network and not be able to go out and see people. But then Zoom became a thing that allowed me to start really interacting with people in ways I just hadn't in years. Like there's a small group of people that I went to college with. We started to interact during Zoom, just trying to keep each other sane, and we have kept that up. I did the same
Yeah.
thing with a
Yeah.
group of my family where we weren't getting together all that much, but we did it for a couple people's birthdays that happened during then. And that encouraged that relationship to develop. Again, what we're doing here, Quest, you and I didn't know each other before we met
Right.
virtually, and we've been able to
Yeah.
develop this. So again, proximity,
Yeah.
it doesn't equate to friendship, but it gives you an opportunity. And that's the thing that I feel as I get a little bit older, I have to make sure I'm putting myself in spaces that have these kind of interactions.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't help but think about what you said about the whole COVID time period and how much isolation impacted Black men's ability to create new friendships, sustain, existing friendships, and then also how it impacted mental health. I'm sure there's some correlation in there that somebody did But I
Yeah.
love this next B-roll we about to check out, where this cat talks about the impact that Black men have on each other from a mental health standpoint and how we can formulate new relationships with Black men in our 40s and 50s. So check it out. I think it's something you'll want to see, and we'll come back and top it up.
This whole thing about like the male loneliness epidemic pisses me off so much because like it is completely self-inflicted. It's not a male loneliness epidemic. It's a male I'm too lazy to put in emotional labor epidemic.
Last summer, I had the opportunity to speak at Harvard and moderate a discussion on men's mental health. 3 days before being asked to be a part of it, I found out that one of my old friends took his own life. It is not a men being too lazy problem. It is a real societal problem. In fact, 75% of people that take their life are men. 75%. There's so much talk online about the what that's wrong with men, and we don't talk enough about the why and the how that God is here. There's a popular quote, and it says that a lot of men don't receive the first flowers until their funeral, and I think that says a lot, but I don't think it says everything. We live in a world where, as a man, you're shamed for having emotions. You're told that you're weak for a basic body function like crying. What we talked about in Harvard is a lot of men, they don't actually have supportive spaces to go to. Even if they have a lot of people around them, they don't have people that they can actually share their emotions and be vulnerable with. And I think that's really dangerous because a lot of men, instead of reaching out and having somewhere to go to, they withdraw, they self-isolate, they don't have the proper resources to actually learn about their emotions. Or if a lot of men are aware of their emotions, they don't actually have the tools to manage them. What we don't talk about enough is that being a man in a world where you're not allowed to feel your emotions, it could be lonely. 75% of people that take their life are men.
So we brought up this whole point about can two Black men in their 40s and 50s create a new friendship from scratch? And I want to say absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, again, it's one of those things where as you mature and you get older and you start to recognize what you need in your life for that balance, you don't care about the optics of it.
Yeah.
It's almost like Black men are dating a little bit just to get to know each other in a way where it's like, do I want to rock with you in this way? You know what I mean? It's like, do I want to rock with you at a level where we could get real deep and real vulnerable and we can go high and low in a short period of time? That's one thing I love about y'all. We may not catch up all the time, but we catch up quick and we can go deep.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but that takes time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I believe that, yes, we can meet from scratch. I haven't known Quest for that long. I've known you probably, 3-4 years, and our relationship has bubbled and grown into something beautiful, right? And so it's like, it's absolute, but I think it's also the frequency that the two men are on, right?
That's
where it's
correct.
like,
I hear you.
they're both are like, I can benefit from having, you gotta want that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you gotta want it because if you do, then you'll start meeting people that are wanting those same things.
Yeah. So overall, what's
That's
it
good.
costing us? What's it costing us at this point?
It's costing
CJ,
us a
what you
lot.
think?
It's costing us a lot. I think one of the episodes we did some time ago, Quest, you were talking about the idea of loneliness. I can't remember the stat that went along with it, but I remember you saying that loneliness is equated to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loneliness leads to heart disease. It leads to high blood pressure. It leads to like sleep disorders, all those things that wind up robbing you of some of your time here on this earth. That is going to stick with me, I think, forever.
Yeah. We talked about also too how when you have relationships where one person in that relationship, their partner is their only friend, right? So it's like this whole you isolate yourself to your partners. That's not healthy either, right? You don't want to have it where you don't have no friends and your only friend is your partner. So I think, we lose out in that way. There's a population of men men and women that are like, okay, well, I don't need to have no friends because they're dedicating themselves to the person that they're with. Nothing wrong with that. But I think, we don't benefit from it as human beings.
And then we losing those people who remember who we were before the job, before that marriage, before the mortgage, before we got the success. Some of those people that were really grounded, but maybe we didn't see that. Maybe we weren't looking at that from a perspective because we probably didn't even know us enough. But at the same time, now might be an opportunity. What's the thing you used to do with your friends that you miss the most?
Man.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many things.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
this,
Yo,
I'm gonna throw one in there that comes to mind for me. It's not the kind of thing that I would ever want to do again. But growing up where I grew up, we did a lot of things together. It was a lot of sports. There was always a pickup game of some sport going on. Usually basketball, but it could be a number of other sports that was there. We played a lot of video games. We rode our bikes together. We did a lot of stuff. But the thing that I think I missed the most, which again I don't think I would ever do again, is we did some real delinquent stuff back then. Like I remember we would get together, we're like, hey, the freight trains come and they park, up here off of such and such a street, and it's gonna be there such and such a time. And we went over there, like a group of us went over there, trying to like rob the freight trains, like trying to see if we could open up the freights and get in them. And nothing bad ever happened. And again, it was like kids in the hood just doing stuff to stay busy. We weren't really trying to do anything, but it was that kind of stuff that I really enjoyed from that time in my
yeah,
life. Because we had like, it was almost as if we had generations within a generation. Like I was a part of the youngest group of 3 to 5. There were some that were on the older end, and there were about 20 of us that all grew up together. And the way that we handled that time in our lives is like, that's something that I really
Yeah.
miss. So Rich, one of my good friends, Rich, just came out a couple weeks ago. One of his relatives passed away. So he was coming out here for a funeral, and his older brother, Russ, came with him. And that was the first time I seen Russ this century. And it was just, again, it was one of those things like, it was like we just seen each other yesterday, but just being there with him, the three of us being together was like, it just brought me back to that space
yeah,
where
yeah,
we were kids
yeah.
that just didn't have a whole lot, and we created our fun, in real ways that I probably wouldn't want another kid to be out there trying to do in the streets anymore. But we got done with all that. It was good. It was fun.
Yeah,
So I do miss
Yeah.
that.
yeah. Jay, what
Yeah.
about you?
Man, you took me there when I just thinking and listening to what CJ was saying. I think for me, the time spent with my homies, with our homies, the morning after a night of doing no good and staying up all night and waking up the next morning and we all in the kitchen making pancakes and baking the eggs and we just having a good time fellowshipping with each other and just talking about the day that, the night before or where we at in life, where we
Yeah,
going,
yeah,
dreams that we
yeah,
have. Like I
yeah,
miss those
yeah,
moments, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
those are memories that I'll
man,
never forget, so those are some special times for
man,
me. How
yeah.
how about you,
Yeah,
man?
yeah. Man, I have so many, but I bring myself back to moments when I was younger with my friends group, and we used to be over my homeboy Clarence's house, and we would call ourselves the Knights of the Square Table because we didn't have a round table, but we had a square table, and we were elite MCs, yo. I mean, elite. I'm not even gonna lie about it.
Okay.
You still can get it right now, but we were elite MCs. We were elite MCs, and we would just be battling each other around this square table. Like when it was
My
time, like it was
gosh.
so many people that we was like some people you would have to come and you would battle and you had if you got killed, you got to get up. You know what I'm saying? Somebody else got to come and it's their turn. So I mean, we was going at it like
Man.
that so that we could get better, but in those moments where we got up, that's where we sought most of the connection. That's where we, got a chance to have
Uh-huh.
those conversations as well. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like that was a really good moment, man.
That's dope.
Yo,
That's
look,
dope.
everyone. I know that there are a lot of things that we have said today
Mhm.
that you've looked at from a lens of speaking more from what we know about Black men in their 40s and 50s that are looking for that bond, looking to create that have that real homie with them. But we have a solution for you all. We have something that you may want to try. We have something called the Rebuilding Playbook, and we want to go through that with you all right now because we
Nice.
think it's really a really good thing that you might want to try and you might want to try to do. So first, we want to create the honesty inventory and that one text. And this is what I'm talking about. I want you to write down the last 5 men you were close to. And next to each of their names, I want you to write what ended it. Did you drift away? Was there some sort of betrayal? Was some sort of life change? You know, do you miss them? Or do you miss having someone? The point of this is you can't rebuild if you don't know what broke it. Okay, you got to understand what broke it. And then next, what about that one text? You know, pick one of the names from the list. Someone where like you ended on a drift, not so much a damage. And send that one person a text. Not
That's good. That's
we should
good.
hang out, you know, that dies, you know what I'm saying? But something specific, you know, like, you know, I saw this team playing last night. It reminded me of when we used to watch the game or something like that. You still following them? You know, something kind of that sparks a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Be specific, not generic. Give them a door to walk through. And then, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead right now. You know, my homeboy,
I like it.
I haven't talked to
That's
him in a
what's up,
long
Quest.
time. You know what I'm saying? And I really feel like I'm serious. Like I haven't talked to him in a long time. He was at my wedding. And so I'm going to try to get in touch with him, my man Tony, and I'm going to text him right now and just see, you know, kind of what's up.
That's what's up.
And while I'm
I
doing
like that.
that, hey CJ, I know
Yeah,
you got
yeah,
the
yeah.
next part of this.
Yeah, no, I'll take this. The next two things we're going
That's
to
what's
call
up.
these the third places that you have in your life. And then the fourth one is going to be the vulnerable rep. So when it comes to the third place, we call it the third place experiment. Commit one of these weeks, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, whenever, to commit to going somewhere where men gather without alcohol or any other kind of obligation. All right. So
Come
think about like a
on.
barbershop. Sit in a barbershop there. Don't rush yourself through it. Allow yourself to be present in that space, in that community. We were talking a little bit earlier about going to the gym for a workout, going ahead to have a pickup game of
Yeah.
basketball, pickleball. Like everybody's playing pickleball right now. Whatever that community is that you can be a part of, again, without alcohol or any other kind of obligation, that's kind of cool. You can even do, there are a whole bunch of cats now to get together with their cars. They do like a car meet. They'll go to a cigar lounge. Maybe even they'll go to a fishing spot and just be able to hang out with each other without all the extra amenities there. Think about doing a men's group at church if you're involved, or if
That's
you're
right.
part of
That's
a
right.
Greek system, there's a fraternity, alumni event, that kind of thing that's going on. And not only put yourself in some of these spaces, but when you're there, commit yourself to staying 30 minutes longer than you normally would and just see what happens. Talk to at least one person in one of these spaces that you don't know. All right. It's just getting out there to see if you could try to make a friend. All of that is a part of rebuilding your tolerance for unstructured male interaction, black male interaction like that. And then the fourth thing is looking at the vulnerability rep. So with at least one existing connection that you have, it could be, you know, a brother, it could be a cousin, it could be a coworker, a friend, doesn't matter. Share at least one honest thing. Or just one honest thing, like, man, I've been feeling kind of isolated lately. Like, let somebody know about that.
Come
Jay was talking
on.
about a little bit earlier, and it was a part of one of those B-rolls that got out there, and like these reasons why we avoid doing that kind of thing. But what I think
Yeah.
happens is when you do it, you realize that 9 times out of 10, the dude that you're having that conversation with is just waiting for somebody to open up the door so that they could do the same. So you
That's
be the
right.
bigger person in this situation. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and see what you get in return.
Hey, I just
That's
want to
good.
put that up there. I text him. I
I
text
like
my
it.
man.
That's what's up,
I
bro.
So,
like it.
yo,
That's
we
what's
got
All
to
right,
up.
so
start somewhere, right?
That's
next
right.
week you got this, Jay.
Man, I think I love everything you mentioned, and it made me think about what am I applying in my life. The one thing that I'll talk about is the recurring commitment. Because I think about
Yes.
as we are in our 40s and our 50s, life be lifing, and we got a lot of things that we got going on. So how do you be intentional about it? And what I love about the recurring commitment, something I've been really doing is every other week on a Saturday, I'll just do what Quest was just doing, just shoot a text. Like I may just hit up like 10 guys or whatever guy, whatever your number is, I'll send them all a similar text and just be like, hey, I want to share this with you. What's up? Here's a morning devotional I got. I want to share it with
Mm.
you. What's up? You just never know what impact that little touch point may have on that person. And then next thing you know, you all get to connect, even if it's just for a short period of time. It's relationship. It's a thread,
Mm.
right? So, and it's
Yeah.
recurring. So people will start to recognize and they'll be like, dang, Jay, I ain't get a text from you. You usually hit me up every couple of weeks. What's up with you, man? Just tossing it back to me. Like it's like a volleyball game, right? So I think that's really cool. And I love that. And we also talk about how every other Saturday or maybe once a month, you do something that's recurring. Maybe you go grab a coffee. Maybe you go grab a cigar. Maybe you go for a walk with somebody. Maybe you go for whatever, a bike ride, whatever, just to make sure that you have something that's recurring. And I think another thing, I live off my calendar, right? So I know
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm like, yo, what's up, CJ? You want to get together, man? Hey, let's put this on the calendar. That way I know it's
Right.
intentional and I'm going to follow through on it, because oftentimes our intentions may not actually make it to the point where we get to meet up, right? So it's like, how do I make sure that I'm intentional around making sure that we do? And the calendar piece is super huge for me. And I think the last part
Yeah.
is just understanding that you can reframe. The people that
That's
once
big.
were in your frame that may not be in your frame, you can create a new one. And I think the important part is, as we talk about these things, make sure that when you do reframe, that you have relationships that will sustain. And this B-roll, this one last one that we got, dude is going to talk about some things that I think are important as you walk into your reframe season and the type of friendships that you want to have on a recurring basis. Check it out.
Stop saying we friends. Stop telling people I'm your dog. Like, we throw that friend word around too loosely, bro. It'd be too many of y'all in rooms with other people talking about your friend. You ain't said a word. You ain't pressed nobody. You stood there and laughed right with them. That ain't what friendship is. Like, friendship is, like, if we locked in, like, that's my dog, that's my friend. I don't care if the world is against him. I'm standing right next to him, and we gonna figure it out together, or we gonna go down together. One of the two. But that's how I view friendship. When I say that's my friend, when I say that's my dog, like, that's where I'm willing to go with it. So if you ain't on that type of time, just stay over there. Like, we could be cool, but we not friends, though.
This week, we want you to do week 1, okay? Write down 5 names. Then week 2, send that one text. Screenshot it and post it in the comments if you want, and we'll shout out what the best one was on the next
like that.
episode,
That's
okay?
what's up.
That's
what's
good.
up.
You can think about it. Like, it could be like a prompt like, when's the last time you hung out with a male friend? Not a family, not a coworker, just a friend. Just drop that in the comments. When was the last time you just hung out? When was the last time you went out with one of your homeboys? That was me last weekend, and it might be me this weekend, right? But listen, if this conversation hit you, you're exactly the person for this channel. So
That's right.
subscribe, because
That's
next
right.
week we are going to be talking about black fatigue. And if you don't know about black fatigue, I'm telling you, you are going to want to tune in right here to the 40/50 Social Club.
Amen to that.
Y'all. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Come on, yeah.